Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of this week's episode of Van Helsing on Syfy, which was Season 2, Episode 3, Love Bites. And so I got off of work a little bit earlier than I usually do tonight, so I was finally able to watch a live airing of the episode and get out this video on time, which is always nice. And this episode, I really like this episode. I know I said last week that that was one of their best, but this one topped it. This is easily among one of the best episodes in the series so far, at least within the top like 3 or 5. I think I would have to go back and watch season 1 again, which I might at some point soon actually. But I think this is easily one of the best, and it really it did something I didn't think would happen for a little while yet. We'll just say that. Excuse me. But a big part of this episode was Alex Panovic. I probably just butchered his name. But he's an actor who's been on a lot of shows. He's even had some parts in some bigger movies lately. He's even been on Supernatural a couple times. The 100. I could go on and on about a lot of the work he's done. He's really cool. Again, the whole cast and crew of Van Helsing is really cool to interact with on Twitter and everything. Really appreciative of their fans. He's definitely one of them. So it was good to see an episode centered around him, at least for the early part of it, which I liked a lot. He got to show a lot of his, or at least some of his acting chops here, which I'm sure will be even more expanded on in this due to Julius' development of being turned into a human. We see a flashback, to him in the 1900s, and trying to take care of his sick mother, who he's seen what Sam did to her, at the end of season 1 and such. So we see him trying to scrape together whatever money he can, but he just can't, and he eventually ends up being approached by Dimitri, as he's pretty much purposely getting the shit kicked out of him in a boxing match. So Dimitri turns him, and thus Julius goes to turn his mother, and they pretty much slaughter the nuns working there. So I like the feel to all those scenes, and I think it's good to see a tie back to his mother and why he was so driven the way he was, and why he still sort of listened to her even when he was sort of like this vampire general of sorts. So I like that, and his interactions with Vanessa were especially interesting because Vanessa a lot of times has seen what he had become, and then it's sort of like a question if how much of that was him, how much of it was like a manifestation of like the worst parts of himself that were brought about because of this pain and this potential loss that he's felt. So I thought all that was really interesting, and I like how Alex Panovic played it a lot. And he went to get the kids out of there after Vanessa had almost been forced, or sort of at least had a reflex to kill Daniel, the father, the sort of survivor scavenger she had run into, who didn't say he had any kids, but he's likely just saying he didn't to protect the ones he did have in his car. He ends up saying, your daughter's a vampire, you have to kill her, and he ends up, shooting her, and thus causing Vanessa to react and, cut his throat. So Dylan ends up feeding on him, but it's not quite enough blood anyway. Julius gets the kids to safety, and Vanessa is finally pushed to the point where she believes she just has to try and bite Dylan, or else, nothing, what else can they do at this point? How long are they going to keep going just trying to find even a little bit of blood like that? It's not even worth what they have to do for it. So she does bite Dylan, and it actually works. It turns her back despite what the doctor had said, which is really nice to see. I was kind of happy there, and again, Julius just standing there sort of watching and how respectful he was of everything. I thought came across pretty genuine. I do think he is sort of a more trustworthy, good character at this point, and it's really interesting to see the actor being able to go into that as well. I'm sure he sort of playing the different sides to him. But I don't want to have it on my thumbnail the whole time. I want you to see my ugly mug once in a while, But I liked all that. And I see them. I think it's early the next morning. They're throwing snowballs at each other and everything, and it was fun seeing Julius involved in that too. Kind of weird at first, but again, he felt like it was genuine Julius. Actually trying to be who he should have been. Be who he thinks he should be. And I feel like they could have actually had a decent connection. And for Vanessa and Dylan, it was really the first time they were reunited as mother and daughter, really. Because even in vampire form, Dylan might have been able to recognize it was their mother to a certain extent, but to fully take it in and have it be what they both would have wanted it to be, this is it. But then the sun comes out. At first, Dylan cherishes it, but then she's actually burned up. And I thought Vanessa was going to try and rush and get her into some kind of shade or something. But, probably would have been too fast for it anyway. Dylan disintegrates. She's dust. So Dylan's dead already, 3rd episode in. I always thought, I didn't think Dylan was going to last the whole series, but I sort of thought Vanessa was going to be pushed to have to put her down or something of that nature, like a little bit later into the season or even towards the end. I don't know. But no, they sort of quicken the pace here, and Dylan's gone. And I sort of get why. Maybe it is more interesting to have Vanessa have that loss with her throughout the show instead of always actually having Dylan with her. So I get that makes Vanessa a different character and sort of takes her on a darker path potentially, and maybe makes her a more interesting character transformation for her in this post-apocalyptic vampire kind of world. Vanessa's initial reaction to it, I thought, was some of Kelly Overton's best acting on the show so far. Just that scream that she lets out, I thought sounded really good. I don't mean that in a weird way, just like the way it sounded so on point, like all that pain and agony, it felt real. And it appears to even sort of, Julius felt it, but then even Doc felt it. Why am I forgetting now? But pretty much like everyone who she's turned back is, Flesh as well. Pretty much everyone who she's turned back feels it. So is that some kind of connection that she has to all of them now because she turned them back? Is she like the mother vampire to them, except not a vampire? I don't know. It's interesting, and I'm wondering just how much more Vanessa can have an effect on him or something because of what she did. So that was interesting, and with that, while that was going on, meanwhile we had Flesh at the camp and everything with is Casey her name? I could be wrong about that. But the taller woman he's had with him, they have to donate blood, to even get some rations of the food, which makes sense. And of course he's not so willing because he kind of questions what his blood could be like, and just sort of questions himself really. She at first turns him in because he ends up saying he basically used to be a vampire. That doesn't go over so well, but she ends up freeing him anyway. And another really good part of the episode, though, was definitely Sam, who ends up stalking these kids holed up in this school. Very creepy. Sam's probably my favorite villain at this point. I voiced how much I wish Rebecca would have stayed around, even Anastasia. But I was forgetting about Sam. Sam, he's creepy as hell. Christopher Heyerdahl, he does a great job. I still remember in season 1 where Sam still came off as likable, and he really, he somehow connected with him, but then he just turned into this perfect, psycho killer type of character. I think he did great here, as he was sort of singing and, rhyming to himself. I thought that was really good. He sort of takes this kid in really under his wing. He probably sees him as another Muhammad for himself potentially, as he has him kill one of the kids who is whipping the boy at the beginning of the scene. I thought that was all pretty intense as well. And I watched an interview with Alex Panovic, Julius, months ago, and he said he pretty much hinted that Julius and Sam could still be on a collision course because of what happened with his mother, and that makes a lot of sense now. I think Julius now is one of the best characters on the show because of what he's been able to play off in this episode. So I'd be perfectly fine if Julius actually gets to be the one to put Sam down. Although Sam's like one of the strongest vampires on the show. if Julius has to die fighting him, but finally killing him, I think that'd be a good exit. But at the same time, I did like Julius's scenes with Dylan and Vanessa, so I wouldn't mind if Julius was like a long-term survivor for the series. I almost liked him and Vanessa together more than her and Axel, honestly. But Axel still had some good stuff with the Doc in this episode. And what was also interesting about Vanessa's scream, it appeared to sort of stir and awaken some kind of really old, potentially elder vampire that appears even older than, say, Julius. Not Julius, I mean Dimitri. So that could be really good as well. It could tie back to more of Vanessa's ties to her ancestors and such. I think that could be really good as well. But yeah, so I really like this episode. I think it was the best episode of the season so far, and probably one of the best of the series. Surprised about the Dylan thing, but all the rest of it was really good. I'm going to rate it. I'm debating. I feel like I'm very generous with a lot of my reviews sometimes, not just with this, but just some other shows and movies I rate. But honestly, 9.2, 9.3 out of 10, I think. It was very good. I liked it a lot. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe. I'm going to be going to a comic convention in Grand Rapids tomorrow, which should be good. I'm going to be meeting Kane Hodder, Jason Voorhees in particular, so that should be pretty good. I'll probably do a video on that at some point after I get back. So I'm going to be behind a couple more of my reviews, like with Riverdale and Supernatural and Arrow and such, but I'll get to those when I can. Also watching the second season of Slasher on Netflix, which is pretty good so far. So yeah, peace.